Hello, and welcome to episode 4 of the best and worst of indie books. I know it's been forever since I've gotten one of these out. In my defense, that's more to do with the fact that I've been reviewing a lot of indie books in full video reviews, and when I do that, I don't usually also include those books in this series. This is for the indie books that I've read outside of that, so it took me a while, but I am back with one indie book that I'm not the biggest fan of, but another one that I am totally the biggest fan of. Now, as usual, I always start with the worst, which is in this case a 2-star, and end with the best, which is in this case a 5-star. And this was a wild ride. So first up, my worst of indie books was Royally Screwed by Sienna Blake. As you can tell by the cover, this is an erotica, I speak good, an erotica. And more importantly, it's a reverse harem romance. This is a subgenre of romance that is, I'm hoping, what it sounds like. I haven't read too much into it, where it is one female character with multiple male partners. Now, I've wanted to get into this genre for a while because I've been really wanting to see more polyamory in books. My little free love and hippie heart would love that. And I was hoping that a reverse harem would have that. This book did not. This book revolves around Sophia, who's had a very sordid past and kind of a sad childhood, who now works in a hotel, meeting a literal prince, Prince Grayson, and she ends up falling in love with him. But he has a rule. He cannot sleep with a woman without both of his bodyguards present, and both of his bodyguards also partake, and if she wants to sleep with him, she has to be okay with the other two of them as well. Now, the actual scenes with that are pretty good. Nothing too over the top, but definitely it counts that there's, 4 people in the situation instead of just 2. However, the emphasis on the actual romance was very monogamous. It was very much Sophia and Grayson, and the other 2 were just add-ons. It was very standard beyond that, wherein it felt like your basic romance story where a woman just happens to find a prince, but she doesn't want him to know her background because there's some bad things in there, which are never really elaborated on. Like, you kind of know a little bit, but no actual times or dates or specific instances are ever mentioned. But it's a whole big thing because if it comes out and it comes out that the prince is dating someone like this, like, oh my gosh. So it's pretty, standard in that. And the guards were stereotypes, more or less. You had the stalwart, stoic Russian dude. I think his name was Nikolai. And you had the fun, flirty blonde guy. I want to say his name was Chase. And they were into it. And they liked her, but at the same point in time, they're also like, no, yeah, it's totally your girl. We just sometimes sleep with her too. And I wasn't actually that into that. I'm like, no, I wanted actual polyamory. I wanted actual group love, not just group sex, but monogamous love. And that, again, might be on me. This might be another case where I assume the genre is something it isn't, a la magical realism. So I'm really hesitant. I have a couple other reverse harem romances on my Kindle that are indie, but I'm hesitant to read them because I don't want to put in the time if it is just a misnomer of a genre label. Beyond that, there was this really funny thing where every time someone turned on a TV in the book, there would be a news broadcast saying exactly what was needed to be said at the time, and always exactly. And I know movies do that too and that kind of stuff, but multiple times they would turn on TV and exactly at that moment would be exactly on the news telling exactly what they needed to do to further the plot. And I was like, really? This is so plot convenient-y. So that was kind of just a silly thing to decide. At the end, all problems were solved so easily. I thought it was funny that they made a whole big deal about how, what will the royal family think? What will the people think? You never meet another member of the royal family in the story. It's literally just the prince and his bodyguards at this hotel. So, you never actually see anyone show any kind of anger or disapproval towards Sophia. It's like literally just all told that there will be, and you kind of have to take their word for it, and you never actually see it. There was also a bonus novella, which was literally just an extra kinky sex scene, wherein they're all still sleeping together after the marriage. It is still very much monogamy romantically, and then I guess group sex. So they're still kinky, but it wasn't anything more than that. It basically felt like the author said, okay, I want to do a standard romance, but that's too vanilla. Add group sex, but not change anything else. And I was kind of annoyed by that. So that was a 2-star. I'm going to try to keep going with it, but I'm reluctant. However, the other book that I have to tell you about today is a fantastic 5-star that came out of nowhere. I was not expecting this to be as good as it was. This is an ebook that has been sitting on my Kindle for forever, because if you know anything about me, you know that I have a thing for BookBub, and I just download all of the free ebooks they offer and don't touch them for years, and then I discover years later, when I finally do read them, that they're actually awesome and I should have been reading the series this whole time. In this case, the book is Ella the Slayer by A.W. Exley. This is Cinderella post-World War I with zombies. Now, I was also expecting this to be kind of whatever. I had been in the middle of the Bookie Mom Badgeathon, aka reading 16 books in 1 month, and I was like, crap, I really need to de-stress after this and kind of just chill. And when I read it, I was like, okay, this is a lot more than what I was expecting. Now, most Cinderella stories or Cinderella retellings try to be so vague with the time and place because they want to kind of be universal. And this one is like very, very placey and timey. It takes place in an English village right after World War I, and it shows. There are characters with shell shock. Specifically, Ella's family has a stable hand that is mute as a result of what he saw over there, and her father has serious head trauma. He's not actually dead, which was a really interesting take on it, because in most of these, the dad is dead and gone. But he's just not there mentally, and so the evil stepmother and her evil stepdaughters are slowly taking things over while he's still alive, and it's like he's dead, and Ella's trying to bring him back. Her biological mother, was actually a maid that her father married, and so evil stepmother is basically trying to shove her back in that role. You're not good enough, all that kind of stuff. And then a duke comes back to town. His name is Seth, and I don't know if that's actively a name for that time period. I have to double check. But he is charming, and he's the perfect Prince Charming, even though he's not a prince, which I also loved. This story in general had so much of the bare bones and Cinderella stories that you could very much tell that it was a sort of retelling, but also turned a lot of the tropes of that story on its head. There were some times where it's like, oh, it's counting down to midnight. Here comes the thing, and then it swerves and it's something else entirely. And I really appreciated that. The zombies were also a lovely benefit to the story. I was afraid they would just be thrown in for fun, but it almost comes across as an analogy for the atrocities of World War I. Seth talks about, after having served there and the other men that served there, how he struggles to fight off the zombies because he sees the faces of soldiers when he does that, the soldiers that he watched die. And so it almost comes across as that kind of analogy for that real world war. Also, his mother, Seth's mother, mother? It was a mother or a relative or someone went down with the Titanic, so another little historical reference there. It might have been an uncle. I read this a while ago, so I don't remember off the top of my head. So it was all kinds of placey, and the zombies were all kinds of threatening, and they weren't fast zombies. They were your standard slow zombies, but it was scary enough because it was the juxtaposition of here's this idyllic, sunny English countryside, but zombies. And they attacked during the night, they attacked during the day, they can attack whatever, they attacked wherever. And so having that kind of idyllic setting ripped apart by the living dead was really, really nice. And they only talked a little bit about the mechanics towards the end, but towards the end they start to figure out, okay, here's about what they're doing and how can we stop them, and it becomes Ella and Seth together trying to plot out how to fight back against the zombie horde. And she's very much his equal in the story. I loved that. Very much his equal in fighting, and in some cases, if he does step in, it's not because she can't physically do it, it's because for whatever reason that one zombie hits too close to home for her and she just can't force herself to actually go through with beheading them or something like that. The series, as I understand it, I have not gotten the next book yet, but it is on my list, is basically going to be the same thing with other fairy tales. There is a maid named Alice who is Ella's closest friend, and she's the focus of the next book where there are still zombies, but I get the gist that it's supposed to be like an Alice in Wonderland-esque retelling. So the idea is that they're going to fit in all of these standard fairy tales or literary characters within this zombie-infested Edwardian England setting, and I'm in love with that idea. I didn't think I would love this as much. I don't necessarily agree with the whole, oh, just put zombies in it, it'll be better. But the zombies affected characters in different ways, and they made references to World War I, and it's a big part of Ella's character that because she fights zombies and because she is Ella the Slayer, people are like, but like maybe your soul is damned to hell, we're not sure. And people look at her strangely because she is willing to go out and kill zombies when no one else is. And so everything has a purpose. Everything is like, it matters that World War I just ended. It matters that there's zombies. It matters that this is in, Edwardian England. It matters that her home life makes it difficult for her to fight zombies. Everything mattered, and nothing felt forced in to be like, ooh, cool, interesting thing. And I loved that. This book, again, came out of nowhere. I had it on my Kindle for free for forever. I really got to start reading more of those old BookBub books because I have found some absolute gems that I adore out of the the ebooks that have been sitting in my Nook or my Kindle for maybe years in some cases. So in general, Royally Screwed by Sienna Blake was a 2-star. Not the worst, but like one of the worst I've read recently. And Ella the Slayer by A.W. Exley was 5-star. Absolute favorite. I raced through that one to get to the end. It was great. If you have read either of these books or you would be interested in it, please let me know in the comments down below. I've been getting so many more comments recently and I love it so much. If you have any other suggestions for reverse harem books that are genuinely reverse harem books, please let me know. If you also know of any other books that are like this plus zombies that you loved, let me know that as well. And just FYI, no Pride and Prejudice and zombies. That is, I cannot. That is perfect to me. I will not see zombies added. But regardless, like, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff if you would like to. And with nothing else to say, I hope you have a wonderful day and a marvelous tomorrow.